Assalamu alaikum once again, and welcome to the Traveler's Prayer, the podcast that aims to explore the behind-the-scenes tales of some of the most notable Islamic events. And the man behind some of these events is Rayhan Iqbal. Say hello, Rayhan.
Assalamu alaikum, Ahmed. What's going on?
Wa alaikum salam. I am good. How are you doing?
Good. Another week, another episode.
It has been another week, another episode. Have you pondered on the gems from last week's episode?
To be honest, no. I've been trying to get myself mentally prepared for this week's episode, so focusing more on that. I hope people enjoyed it, liked it. You know, it's a podcast where there wasn't as many stories because it was a two-day thing. But it was with the legend of the scene. So hopefully people enjoyed just hearing how that whole thing came about, because I think there was a unique spin on that one, right?
Yeah.
That we hadn't had on a previous one. So yeah, let's see what today's brings.
Okay. On this podcast, Rayhan will go through some of his stories about trial and tribulations when organizing Islamic events. And in this particular episode, there's a special event which focused on particularly one date that happens once in a lifetime, 11/11/11. A notable event which was hosted by Mufti Ismail Menk, Ali Hammuda and Hassen Rasool. Let's start with the event name itself. We know it came from, like the date, but why that particular date?
So, I'm a big wrestling fan, right?
Yeah, now I know.
I'm a big wrestling fan. So there was a wrestling company who a year before were advertising an event, and they advertised it on the 10th of the 10th of the 10th. Now, the event wasn't called 10-10-10, but they were trying to drill that into people's minds. It was a pay-per-view event, and they were trying to drill into people's mind, okay, this event's going to happen on the 10th of April, and it's in 2010. And that really stuck out to me. Remember, we spoke, I think maybe in the first episode, you were asking me, where do I get inspiration from? And I said anywhere and everywhere, right? So when I saw 10-10-10, I was like, oh, that's really cool. And I saw that probably digested it, obviously, in the run-up to 10-10-10. And I thought, well, I've missed it, because I probably saw it maybe the beginning of April, beginning of October, end of September. So, well, I can't really run something on the 10th of the 10th of the 10th. But you know what? The 11th of the 11th of the 11th is coming up next year. And I thought, the thing with the 10-10-10 is you got 1 and a 0. Yeah. And then you have another 1 and a 0. But it's not very symmetrical, because you have a 1 and a big 0 next to it, and you have another 1. But I thought, well, if you have 11, they're all basically one long stick. Yeah. So it just looks like 2 sticks, a dot, 2 sticks, a dot. So symmetrically, it looks visually more impactful as well. So I had this idea of, well, if they were just promoting as like a little side thing, why don't I create, again, a concept event where we do one event on one particular day, and we say, okay, the reason why we're focusing on this particular date has no religious connotations, but it's an idea of time, and it's an idea of something that, again, is centered around, it's not going to come again. You're not going to live until 3000. None of us are going to live till 3011. We're not going to see the 11th of November of 3011. It's only going to happen once. It only happens once 1,000 years that this particular date will arrive. So why don't we commemorate that? And it's right. We could have done 12-12-12, but that symmetrical visual thing of all the sticks representing 11 wouldn't have been there. So
I had an idea. Sorry, now that you mentioned like the symmetrical part, the illustration for it could have been like bars, like prison bars, and someone's like hands is there, and then it's like imprisoned in the dunya.
That's probably why we never had you on poster duty.
Double meaning.
You lost me at hello right there. We were like, let's commemorate it. Let's do something specific. So as soon as that wrestling event happened on the 10th of the 10th, I started thinking, right, I'm going to do something on the 11th of the 11th of the 11th. So that's kind of where the name came from.
Okay, that's cool. The main speaker of the event was Mufti Ismail Menk. In previous podcasts, we spoke about you touring with him, and you brought him back, but it's been quite, how many years? Like 3 years?
4 years probably.
4 years, yeah. Since you last had him on.
2007, so about 4 years.
Okay. How was that reunion? Why did he bring him back for this particular moment?
When I toured with him in 2007, as you know, I'm not a fan of repeating stuff. Not a fan of doing things over and over again just for the sake of doing it. Although might sound a bit hypocritical because next week's podcast will be a repeat event of one we did before. But generally speaking, I try to mix things up, try to bring different people, different perspectives, different voices, different faces, so that it's not. I've talked about it before. I always feel as if I'm pushing myself, God makes things more easier for me and opens doors for me from that side of things. But I'd always thought to myself, Mufti Ismail Menk, I was like, man, Mufti Menk has got something about him. There's something special there, right? So I want to bring him back for something, but I just didn't want to do it for no, just like, let's do another tour. Yeah. It just didn't feel like I was pushing myself enough for that. And what happened was, my intention was always, when I saw the 10-10-10 thing, I thought, it'd be really cool to get Mufti Ismail Menk back. Let's bring him back and bring him back on that particular thing. But at the time, I was also working for FOSIS. So, FOSIS, the Federation of Student Islamic Societies. And in the summer, they were arranging their annual conference. And I'd arranged, I think, the 2009 version of the annual conference. Before I created Like Media, I'd organized the 2009 FOSIS annual conference. So when it came to 2000, and it was a big success. A big success compared to what they'd done in previous years. So when it came to the 2010 one, the 2011 one, the 2011 one, they were trying to build a roster of who they wanted to have on the event. Yeah. And they reached out to me and they said, look, who do you think would be really good? And I pushed them. I said, look, get this guy. His name's Mufti Ismail Menk. I did told him 3-4 years ago, he's amazing. And I want to bring him back for an event in November, but I'm telling you, bring him back. He'll still do an amazing job. But the guys who were in charge at the time, they hadn't seen him. They didn't know who he was because, of course, this was pre-social media. This was before, his presence had really blown up and everyone kind of gravitated towards him and knew what he was about and what he was doing. So none of those, the main guys didn't know who he was. They just heard this title of Mufti. Yeah. And they built a picture up in their head of what Mufti looks like. They thought, really old guy, and he's from Zimbabwe, so he probably can't speak English very well. He probably won't be able to engage with young people. So they were pushing me back. They were like, no. We don't want to, we don't think he'll be the right fit. And I was like, dude, trust me, get Mufti Ismail Menk. He is sick. And it was kind of, there's two reasons why I was pushing it. Number one was, I was vested in FOSIS' interest, and I knew this speaker, this guy would do an amazing job and would be able to convey and relate to the audience very, very well. But number two, because I wanted to invite him for November, so I thought, well, if he's in the country, I can lay out the plan of what I wanted to do for November and speak to him about that face-to-face rather than by email, because we continued speaking to each other through text message and email. But I thought it's a different thing, when you say, face-to-face with somebody. But again, I wasn't able to convince the management, but luckily there was a brother in FOSIS at the time who was quite senior in the conference organizing team. And Mufti Menk, because when I first brought him to the UK, I took him to De Montfort Uni. He, again, had gone quite close to the De Montfort Uni guys. And they would invite him every February for Islam Awareness Week. So they invited him again for Islam Awareness Week. And the brother who was part of the organizing team happened to go to the event, heard the speech that Mufti Menk did and was like, this is amazing, and invited him for the summer conference. And when he came for the FOSIS summer conference, he absolutely tore the house down. Everyone, I think the lecture was meant to go for an hour and he went for 2 and a bit. Wow. And I remember they gave him a sheet of paper to say, look, you've got 10 minutes to go. And he ripped it up and he was like, listen, I've come all the way from Zimbabwe. Yeah. And this was probably about 11:30 in the evening, right, on a Friday or Saturday night. I can't remember what it was. Really late in the night time. People had been there. The conference had started 9 a.m., 10 a.m. So people had been there for a long time. And he was like, look, I came all the way from Zimbabwe with a message to tell you. You can even watch it in the video. He said, I came here with a message and I'm not going to get off the stage until the message has been delivered. And the entire audience clapped. They were like, yes, stay. Because he was on fire, absolutely on fire. And it's funny, about 20 minutes later, they gave him a sheet of paper that said 5 minutes, and he kind of blanked it initially. And then he went, oh, actually, this says 5 minutes. So if you're telling me from when you last gave me the paper that said 10 minutes to now is only 5 minutes, I'm happy with that. Because actually it'd been 20 minutes, right? But they gave him a paper that's saying that it's 5 minutes. So he goes, if that's what you think 5 minutes is, then fine, I'll do another 5 minutes, right? I'll go on for quite a while. And I remember as soon as the lecture finished, my mates and stuff who originally were like, we don't think he'll be the right fit. We don't think he's good for the crowd. they were like, bro, we should have listened to you, man, from the beginning. This guy is amazing. Like, he's everything that we would want from a speaker to come for FOSIS and to speak at the conference. So they were like, we're so glad that you pushed it and you pushed us to invite him. And when he came for the conference, when we were there, because obviously we knew each other from before, I knew he was coming, but he didn't know I was going to be there. So I thought, what I'll do is I'll sneak up in the conference and I'll be like, hey. And then when he saw me, he was like, what's going on? And so like I was with him at the conference and I said, look, there's this event, there's this date, 11/11, comes once in a lifetime. I want to do an event. I want to center it around this entire concept. And he was like, I love it. Absolutely love it. Let's do it. And that's how the invitation kind of went out. But what was interesting was in that year, in 2011, Eid was very close. Hajj time and Eid was very close to the date that we were doing the event. So we'd advertised that he was going to come. And we'd advertised that he was the main speaker at the event. Because now, before the FOSIS conference, he was on social media a little bit, but his profile hadn't blown up. As soon as the conference was finished and loads in the months preceding it, he started to get more and more followers online because he was putting a lot of these motivational quotes up and people were just loving that kind of stuff. And they still do. Like, he still gets...
He's literally the Twitter sheikh.
Yeah.
Like, he's one of the biggest Islamic scholars on Twitter.
Yeah, and that was like the beginning, right? So after the FOSIS conference, it was kind of the beginning. So people started to really know him. And so we'd advertised that he was going to come. And he phones me or emails me, can't remember what it was, or maybe left me a voicemail and said, look, at Eid time, I go into rural Zimbabwe every single year and I work with less privileged part of society out there. In rural Zimbabwe, there's not that much money. So he goes, I'm committed every year to do this kind of thing. And he goes, because of the dates of Eid this year, he goes, it's touch and go if I'll make your event. And I was like, man, like he'd agreed to it in the UK. I mean, he was still like, I'm going to try to make as much as I possibly can. But he goes, but look, I have this commitment. So I didn't tell anyone this. Right? You're probably the first person I'm telling.
Cool.
Right? That he, in the run up to the event, we'd booked his flights and stuff. And he was like, look, if Eid falls on the right day, we're cool. If it doesn't, then I don't know if I'll be able to make this event. Very fortunately for us,
Allah,
it fell like the day before he was meant to travel. So he was literally on the 10th of the 11th of the 11th. Yeah. He was in rural Zimbabwe, finished off his obligation there, caught the flight and came to the UK on the 11th, and we did the event on the 11th. But it was very touch and go, man, whether we were going to have him. I was panicking because it wasn't the case that I could just push it back a day.
Yeah, you couldn't.
Because it's an event centered around a particular date. So
what you could do, though, you could have said it was 11/11, and then you could have just had the event.
Just without him.
Yeah, you just have, and even in the video, you could just fudge the day a little bit.
Yeah, just be like, surprise, you don't know the truth of what happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the thing. When I saw that 10-10-10 thing, instantly, Mufti Menk was the one guy I was like, yeah, I'm going to have him on the show. I don't know why, it, like, his name was always like, all right, I'm going to have him. And then when the FOSIS thing was coming up, I was like, listen, I'm inviting Mufti Menk. I hadn't invited him at that stage. In my mind, I was going to invite him for the 11th. And I thought, okay, why don't you guys invite him for the summer? Because I know he'll smash it. And I can talk to him about my thing. And then that's kind of how Mufti Menk became part of the event.
That's cool. That's cool. It's nice that you met up with an old friend.
Yeah, and it's also, one of the things that a lot of people, you can take away from that is there's a lot of the times things are not advertised, or things that are advertised a certain way, but you don't know the story that's going behind it. Like, I'm an advocate of not, sometimes people advertise a person and that person has no intention of ever coming to the event.
Yeah.
I think that's completely and utterly wrong. You should never mislead the audience. You should not say, oh, well, we've sent an email to this sheikh or this artist or this performer, and therefore we'll put their name on the poster because, by the time it takes them to reply, we don't know whether they'll be there. And I think that's misleading. That's wrong. And you should never do that. But this was a case where he was like, yes, I'm vested, I'm coming. But there was extenuating circumstances and unique circumstances surrounding a specific date thing that, me and him were the two people in the world who knew, well, this might not actually happen. Fortunately, the way that things went, it did happen. But a lot of the times when people are asking questions or asking about how things turn out, sometimes you don't know the stress and the headache that someone has to take. And I took this stress and headache on retrospectively for no reason.
Yeah.
because he did turn up the date that he wanted to. He did do everything, and everything was perfectly fine. But there was that dilemma for like 2 weeks. Okay, if Eid is pronounced on the wrong day and it falls on the wrong side for us, then we are completely and utterly screwed. Then you start thinking in your mind, what do I do? What happens? How are we going to tell people? This was a ticketed event. It was £5. So how do we tell people who have paid £5 to come see the show? Like, all right, it's not going to happen. Or the main person that you're coming to speak is not going to be there. So you take on all these things, and all of a sudden, like that, it's evaporated. Everything's kind of gone. So, there is a lot of stress that sometimes you look back on, you're like, what were you stressed about? Because people don't see, because it just never felt that way.
Okay. And also, there's some people that just put names on the posters to get like...
Yeah, I dislike that. A couple of my friends do that.
Very bad.
And I'm like, look, that is just, it's essentially lying, isn't it?
Yeah, it
this
truly
person's
is, yeah.
going to turn up, I remember many years ago, when Facebook first started, this brother came up to me and he said, look, I will get you fake followers on your Facebook page. And I was like, why would I want fake followers on my Facebook page? And he said, I said, because they had no benefit if it's someone's fake, right? And they're not interacting with the page. He said, yeah, but what would happen is if you have a page with like 25,000 followers, then people will see that page and say, oh, there must be something special about this page. So I should follow it because, if they've got 25, 50, 100,000 followers, oh, there must be something good. So I'll follow it. He was like, perception equals reality. So people will follow it. And I was like, yeah, but I don't think the Prophet would have done that. Like, I don't think he would have gone around saying to people, like, pretend to be part of my faith and pretend to be listening so that other people will listen and then they will gravitate towards it. I was like, that's not how I think that we should do that.
It's very shallow and scummy, and it
like
no
we'll
benefit.
trick people. Yeah. We'll trick people into following, and I'm like, I don't like that. Why would I want to trick someone?
And their perception is, no, the product is good. We're making something good. It's just we have to trick people into following us or like engaging with us. Then they'll know it's good.
And it's not necessary.
It's not necessary.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're doing it for a reward, I mean, I get it. If you're, and a lot of people, the thing is, if you have bigger organizations, you do have more scrutiny, you do have more pressure because they have sponsors. Sponsors are expecting people to turn up so that they can advertise to people, and they want a certain amount of people. And so if your premise is to get as many people in as possible, I can see how people would fall into those traps. But I've always had that, again, we spoke about it last week, put the effort in. I don't care who turns up or who doesn't turn up, because I'm getting rewarded for the effort. You're getting rewarded for the effort. I'm sure the speakers themselves value that as well, right? Everyone's put the effort in. We're going to get rewarded regardless. So you don't have that pressure of having to be underhanded to, show off and seem bigger than you are. Whereas I don't think that's cool, man. But this wasn't that case.
Yeah, that's more of a consequence of social media nowadays, where...
Not even before social media though, bro. Like, I'm talking about, I saw people, they put posters up and write like a big speaker's name, like Dr. Zakir Naik is coming, and in small brackets, 2BC. Yeah. And it's like,
I used to see those.
Yeah. TBC, right? TBC. In brackets. And I'll be like, has he agreed to come or something? Why is it
what
TBC?
What does that mean? To be
certified, to be confirmed. It depends.
To be confirmed.
And so they were like, I was like, is it confirmed? Oh, we ping the email to his people. We'll see what they say. But the thing is, we need to get posters printed now. Yeah. So we need people to know he potentially could be coming because we've emailed him. I'm like, that's not the same thing, bro. With this Mufti Menk thing, it was like, okay, because he agreed on the spot. Like, if you watch the video back, for 11/11/11, even in his speech he says it like, I was just in rural Zimbabwe, and in July I agreed on the spot to what Rehan probably doesn't say my name, but he says to what the brother told me about the layout of the event, and I agreed on the spot. And then afterwards, we realized that there could be a complication, but God made it so that everything's worked out fine. That's different. That's where you put a plan in place and something that you weren't expecting, extenuating circumstances come in the way. But I think the other way, where people intentionally mislead, if you're an Islamic organizer, allow it, man. Allow it.
Yeah, you should allow it. The second speaker that you invited on was Ali Hammuda. He was a new up-and-coming Islamic lecturer in 2011. How did you even find out about this guy? Because I remember being at the event and I've never heard of him before, but I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. So, Forces Conference again.
Yeah.
The one that Mufti Menk was at. And again, I'd had in the university scene, I had a bit of a reputation as being an event organizer. So a friend of mine from Wales, he said to me, oh, you know what, you need to sign up. He goes, there's this guy that we've got speaking at the beginning of the conference. His name's Ali Hammuda. He goes, you need to sign him up to Like Media. And I was like, come off it, bro. Like, you're telling me there's a speaker out there that I haven't heard of,
Yeah.
who would be really good, right? You know, me being a bit arrogant and cocky, like in a jokey way, right? I was like, come on, bro, you know a speaker that I don't know. Yeah,
I have my finger on the pulse.
you know, exactly right.
Yeah.
So I was, you know, doing one of those, and he goes, no, bro, trust me. There's this kid is really good. He probably didn't say kid, but he said this guy is really good. When you listen to him, you'll definitely want to put him on a tour. And I was like, let's see. I mean, I've heard loads of people say that, like, this guy is really good, but really what happens is you as an individual really like that guy's delivery. It doesn't mean that the rest of the room does, right? So I just thought, well, let's see. That's what's the harm in saying. And Ali was like the opening speaker at the Forces conference, and I was surprised at how good he was, man.
Yeah.
I was like, this kid, again, kid. But I
He's
thought this
young,
guy
though.
is,
He's quite young.
even though he was younger than me.
Yeah.
So I was like, this guy is really good. And the way he presented, the way he spoke, the way he acted on stage, I was like, yeah, this guy would really fit well with the University Islamic Society scene. So he did his entire speech. I was really impressed. I took his contact details from my friend when it finished, and I went up to my mate. I was like, yeah, listen, give me his details. He was like, I told you you'd want to sign him up. Told you would. So I got Ali's details from him after the event, and I reached out to Ali. I said, look, because Ali obviously knew Mufti Menk was going to be speaking at the Forces conference, and that video from the Forces conference that Mufti Menk did kind of went mini viral. You know, in those days there wasn't a concept of virality, you know, because social media was kind of new, but loads and loads of people shared it, loads of people viewed it. So he didn't stay for Mufti Menk's lecture because Ali was first and Mufti Menk was like last in the evening. So, but he'd seen the video, he knew who Mufti Menk was, and I was like, look, I'm lining up this event. I want you to speak on there. And he was very easy, very chilled out. Ali was, at the time, he was working a normal job, and he said, yeah, I'll just book time off, and a friend of mine will come and drive me. He was very easy to work with. He was like, you know, and Ali still is now. He's all about the dawah. He's all about reaching more people. He's all about inspiring and elevating.
I think that was what moved me in his speech. You could just feel the sincerity.
And also, like, people didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And when you hear him speak and deliver something, you're like, oh, he's really good. Like, he was really good. So that was the thing with me. So I knew if I brought him to a stage where people didn't know, you know, if you know somebody, you have a certain expectation of their standards.
Exactly.
If you don't know, then you're just taking whatever someone presents to you. And I was impressed when I heard him in Cardiff. And I, you know, you know how many speakers I've, you know, heard and spoken to over the years. So I thought, well, if I'm impressed, then I know if I bring him to a new crowd who I'm not going to be expecting, they're going to be impressed. So that's kind of how I got introduced to Ali. It was from the Forces conference, and I laid out the plan of the event for him, and he was like, yeah, I'm down.
Okay. And yeah, lastly, the third individual, Hassan Rasool, who did some Quran recitation to open the event, and was there a particular reason you had three speakers, and why invite the Quran reciter as the third?
So again, with that symmetry thing, because it was 11.11.11, I thought, well, if there's a day, a month, and a year, there's three parts to the event title, why don't we have three speakers?
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't want to have three lectures. You have three lectures, it's, number one, it's going to take a lot of time, because you have to respect everyone's time. You can't invite someone and say, go on the stage for 10 minutes. What they're going to do in 10 minutes? How they're going to inspire someone? And so I didn't want to go for three speakers back to back. But also, you know how it is with quote unquote entertainment.
Yeah.
People, when they see entertainment, they feel it's an event that's bigger than it is because there's an entertainment element to it. So although Quran is an entertainment, but having a reciter adds that kind of big event feel to it.
Yeah.
They've gone out of the way, because usually when you have an Islamic event, a guy from the crowd, you know, a person in the Islamic Society, well, let's get up and do some recitation at the beginning. So I thought if we bring a reciter on board, then it makes it look like, okay, there must be something special about this, that they're bringing someone. And Hassan was someone who was known to be booked for events where they wanted a specialist Quran reciter. And I'd known Hassan from, you know, I did a charity week event with him in 2008, I want to say. And also, there was another thing I did with Hassan. Oh, when Sheikh Sulman Mullah came for Sin City, we had Hassan there because Hassan was like, oh, this guy's amazing. And if you remember that story in the podcast, so Hassan kind of, you know, got involved in that event. So I knew him from there. Very nice guy, very pleasant, very cool. And Hassan is creatively outstanding. Like, people just see him as a reciter.
Yeah.
He's like a graphic designer. He's an artist.
Wow.
He came to my house. He stayed at my house, and he is an amazing cook. So he made me breakfast the next day. And it's the nicest breakfast I've ever had in my life, aside from my mom's breakfast, right? So just in case my mom's listening. Okay. So it was amazing, the breakfast that he made. Hassan is creatively outstanding. Like, he can sing, so he's a nasheed guy as well. He's a Quran reciter, he's a poet. He does, he's done like a little bit of acting on the side. He's directed videos and stuff. He works for a creative agency, and like back in the day, yeah, I'm telling you, Hassan is amazing. There was, remember back in the day on Facebook, you'd have like these little apps. So you would have like a painting app where people would just be able to paint something with your finger.
Yeah.
He showed me a time lapse of him getting his mobile phone and drawing like a really picturesque scene.
Yeah.
It looked like art that you see in an art studio.
Yeah.
But he did it with his finger on his tablet. And I was like, dude, you did that? And he was like, yeah. He's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So,
mashallah.
Yeah, I mean, he's very super talented, man. Very talented guy. And so I was like, let's bring Hassan on board. He'll supplement the other two guys quite well, and it'll give the event like that bigger feel, if you like.
That would be cool if you had like a live drawing thing, like where they put a canvas on stage.
Hassan could do it, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that would be cool.
He don't mess about. And this is the thing. Sometimes people, pigeon box people into certain specific places. Like, they're just like, oh, Hassan Rasool, he's a Qari, right?
How can you pigeon box him? He does everything.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he was like, let me learn everything. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure he's a photographer as well.
Yeah, everything.
He's everything, man.
Yeah. I need my washing machine fixed.
Let's get the creative guy.
Yeah, moving on to the event itself, what do you remember most about it? What's the most notable thing that comes to mind when you think about that time?
That event itself was probably one of the most disjointed, stressful events I've ever had in my life.
And it was just one event?
It was one event. Because what happened was, you know how I'm a big advocate of not doing events in the same space over and over and over again, right? So I wanted to do it in Birmingham because that's my city. But we'd done the Strangers tour and what will bring peace to the Middle East at Birmingham University. So I didn't want to do it again in Birmingham because it's like, well, you keep, I'm going against one of the things that I mentally set out to do at the beginning. I didn't want to do that. Second thing was, I didn't want to do it in De Montfort because I knew, because you got 3 people, you're going to have to ticket it, right? Because the cost of putting on the entire thing would be quite significant. So I couldn't do it in Leicester because people in Leicester at that stage didn't really pay for stuff. They were like, Islamic knowledge should be for free. Why are you putting a price on that? So I couldn't really do it in Leicester. I didn't want to go to Manchester or London or different spaces because I just wanted to focus on, somewhere that was Midland centric, somewhere that I could, do it closer to home. So I reached out to Aston Uni, and the president at the time, very good guy, talked to him about it. Ahmed, yeah, you know Ahmed, right? Ahmed was like, this is a sick idea. I know Mufti Menk. He was at the conference. Let's do it. Okay, cool. So made the poster, sent it to him. We start advertising it. Gave them tickets. Let's get the word out. And I'd sold like 100 odd tickets, right? And
on our end, the ISOC has to sell some.
So the ISOC had to sell some.
I don't know if I was selling some as well.
And so Ahmed at the time, if you remember, Ahmed's from Liverpool, right?
Yeah.
So he used to go back to Liverpool quite regularly. So he was like, look, I'm back and forth between Liverpool and Birmingham. I'll give you some details of the team and just liaise with them what you need to. You've got my full backing.
Was Irfan the go-to?
There was a few of them.
Okay.
There's a few people. He was one of the guys. I think he hosted the event on the night. But there's a couple of people. It's good memory, man. You remember the names?
That was my first. That's the first ISOC.
Your intro.
Yeah.
You always remember your first.
Yeah.
Right? So he was like, liaise with the guys internally. And so with about like a month to go, maybe like 3 weeks to go, remember we spoke in previous podcasts, I would do touch base, like how's things going?
Yeah.
And I didn't hear anything back.
Yeah.
Following their social media channels, there's no advertising of the event at all. Talking to Ahmed, bro, what's going on? And he's like, sorry, man, I'll speak to the team, we'll get on it, blah, blah, blah. With about 2 weeks to go, I'm like, dude, how many tickets have you sold? He goes, I don't know, spoke to the guys. Yeah, basically, we're not advertising your event.
Oh.
What you on about? You're not advertising the event. So I had the stress of Mufti Menk saying I might not actually make it. Then all of a sudden, I've got the ISOC who are like, we're not advertising the event.
We're protesting you.
Not even that. They were just like, we're just going to pretend like it's not anything to do with us. I'm like, why? And they're like, well, you're ticketing it and you're making lots of money for yourself and we don't want to be involved in the money-making thing. Whoa. Where am I making money from this?
Yeah.
With this £5? And then they do young people's maths. The room's got 350 people in there. 5 times 350. So you're making over like £1,500. And this is wrong. We don't want you to make money. I'm like, have you spoke to, like, I wasn't even going to go down that route because I just thought it just didn't make sense. Like how they think that's how things work, right? I'm like, have you spoke to Ahmed? Because he's the president and the president's cool with it. Don't care what the president says. We're here all the time. Yeah. We made the decision that we ain't going to advertise your thing. Whoa, what is going on? There's 2 weeks to go. You telling me you haven't advertised anything? Nope. I'm phoning up Ahmed, like, Ahmed, what the heck's going on? I don't know. I told him, when I told them in the Shura committee, everyone was on board. Like, I'm really sorry about this. Yeah. I'm like, what can we do? He goes, look, I'm coming back on Friday. So this is 2 weeks before the event. I'm coming back on Friday. I'm going to have an emergency Shura committee. Can you come to the event? And I was working on that Friday. I was like, yeah, do it at like 6 p.m. or whatever. I'll come to the event. I'll come to the meeting. So I'm there in like my suit and stuff, my work clothes. And we got then Ahmed's like, I left the responsibility to his committee. He's like, I left responsibility for you guys to liaise with Rehan and get this show promoted and stuff. And we've known about this event for 3-4 weeks. Why are you guys now turning around and saying, that we're not advertising it? Firstly, I told you to advertise it. Secondly, like, what's the logic of advertising it? Well, and what happened was another Islamic organization that does weekend courses had booked a room through Aston University at the university, and they were charging like £80 per person for the course. And they'd booked through the university, so they'd got through the ISOC, they'd got the room for free, and they had like 500 people attend, and every single person paid £80. And the ISOC were like, we didn't get to see any of that money, and they just made, from us facilitating their space for them to come and do the thing, they just made X thousands. Yeah.
That's a big issue ISOCs have had in the past with those Islamic organizations.
Yeah. So they basically lumped me into that same space. So they were like, you're basically doing the exact same thing and you just want to use us to make money. You don't have our own interest in mind. You don't have anything to do with this. I was like, okay, first and foremost, number one, we're charging £5. And I started laying out some of the costs and I was like, all right, tell me where we're making money when I lay out these costs to you. I'm not going to do it on the podcast because it's not really relevant to
Was that sort of humiliating because there was no rational way you could have gone about it where they would understand where you come from? You just had to be as blunt as possible and just give a whole cost breakdown.
It's not humiliating, it's frustrating.
Frustrating because because a lot of us were young, especially in ISOC, and I remember at that point it was very disjointed. Like the ISOC president, like there was no like leadership there as much as it should have been, and so the leadership and people. There's some people that thought they were in charge when they weren't in charge, and then it was just a whole mess. But yeah, like
this because you were at Aston Uni.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So there was moments where I had fun because I looked at the chaos and I'm like, oh, this is fun. I remember it was at a meeting where we was waiting for people to come to the meeting, and then it's like the person didn't like attend. And there was also another meeting with the talking, like referring to the ISOC president and why we need better leadership. And the ISOC president wasn't there, so we were just all waiting in a room, waiting for the ISOC president. And I genuinely, because I was young and I didn't really have a stake in that ISOC at the moment, because I was just like a first year. But I just looked at this and I was like, oh, this is funny. This is a fun time. This is a story. But yeah, it's interesting to see that the run-ins that you had with societies was only because it was young people that didn't understand the structure, and they would sort of went off on one saying, this is injustice. We'll fight injustice, and then you tell them like, oh, okay, if we only asked, we wouldn't have this issue.
Well, so there was that, right? So I started breaking down the finances. So it's frustrating, and it was amusingly frustrating that somebody could do the maths and just be like, well, there's 350 seats in the room, so you're making £5. I'm like, have we sold 350 seats first and foremost?
Yeah.
No. So that money is hypothetical, right? And then so I started breaking that down to them. And I said, look, secondly, we only work with university Islamic societies. Half of you came to the Stranger Store. You saw that event. You saw how it was branded with the Islamic Society. When you booked the room for that other Islamic organization, did they give you a banner on the stage? Nope. Did they allow you to host, like physically go on the stage and make announcements and talk about your Islamic Society and talk about the events that you guys are doing next? Nope. What acknowledgement did they give you? Nothing. Your logo's on the poster. You guys are actually hosting the thing. You're playing videos. The idea is that I'm going to bring you a crowd and I'm going to bring a certain subsection of the student society to you that maybe wouldn't interact with you before. This is your opportunity to talk to them about what else you're doing in the academic year. So I'm bringing you that. This is done in conjunction. The event was Like Media in conjunction with your Islamic Society. This is not Like Media Presents, even though on our poster it says Like Media Presents because it's going out to a different audience. But when we create stuff for them, it was like, okay, it was done very much in conjunction with. I was like, so that's number 2. So it isn't like we're just coming in and ruling the roost and saying, do X, Y, and Z for us. It was like, we're doing it in conjunction, right? And there was like other things, like they said, okay, well, what's the room? So then what happened was as well is it was a bit surreal, man, because they said, okay, the sisters have to sit at the back of the room. So it was like classrooms, right? And everyone had to face forward. Yeah. Everyone had to face forward. And I'm trying to talk to a room full of people and my back's to like 75% of the room because the sisters are behind us. Because there's 2 rows for guys, I was in the front row. I'm like facing forward and talking forward, but really addressing everyone who's behind me. Then I would hear like the sisters, they were like, what this guy's saying is making sense. Like he's explained to us he's not like X organization and he's not like Y organization where they're trying to make a bunch of money. We're logical enough to realize there's a difference between £5 and £80 for an event. He's flying somebody in and there's 3 people on this event. And secondly, they're doing it in conjunction with, so you'd hear that, right? But then one of the other things was like, okay, well, also, we came to one of your events recently, probably the Norman Finkelstein one, and we didn't like the fact that people sat wherever they wanted to. Yeah. And I was like, well, how do you want the setup of the room? Well, the thing is, the room that you've requested, because we requested a room in the university, the 351, and they said the problem is there's only one entrance in that room. That entrance is at the beginning, at the front of the hallway. So like, I think it's G33, right at the very top of the main building. It's got, there's only one entrance. There's 2 entrances, but they're both at the front. And if we go ahead with it, they were like, all right, fine. You've explained the money situation. But they said, if we go ahead with it, we don't want any sisters. The event was due to start like, let's say 6 o'clock. For argument's sake, it was 6 o'clock. Can't remember the exact time. They said, we will not let any sisters into the room after 5:59. I was like, why? Why specifically 5:59? They were like, well, basically, if they walk into the room, then they're going to have to walk past the guys because it was like the entrance at the front, there was a stage, and then you walk past the stage to go to sit down. They were like, well, if we have guys at the front and girls at the back, the girls are going to have to walk past the guys to get to where they need to sit. Yeah. So we don't want them to walk past the guys and guys looking at them and stuff. So we're not going to let them in after 5:59. Like, no, women are allowed in the room. I was like, this does not make logical sense. That a guy can rock up at 6:45, 7 o'clock and walk in very casually to the room. But if a sister turns up at 6 o'clock or 6:01, 6 o'clock, she's still technically on time, right? You ain't going to let her in the room. But a guy can rock up at 6:45, 7 o'clock and they can walk past. And they were like, yeah. They were like, yeah. Like they didn't, that logic didn't, it didn't seem weird. And they were like, yeah, you get it, Rayhan. Like, you get it, right? I'm like, no, I don't get it. I said, look, okay, so I'm trying to come up with solutions because they're like, well, that's another problem that we've got with your event. You're using that room. I was like, well, okay, there's 2 entrances at the front. Yeah. Why don't we make one for the guys and one for the girls? Yeah. And they were like, what do you mean? I said, look, if that door opens, then we know a guy's coming in. Yeah. And if that door opens, we know a girl is going to come in and we'll tell the guys, listen, that's the sister's entrance. That's the brother's entrance. Don't look at that door when that opens, right? So I'm trying to come up with solutions, right? Like, all right, don't look at that door if that door opens. And they were like, well, even if they don't look at the door, when they're walking up the steps, they're going to walk past the guys. And I was like, I was married at the time. I was like, dude, no one's going to fall in love by a girl who's going to walk past like 3 steps. Like, you're in university, right? Yeah. You're going to see girls all the time. You're not going to fall in love by... Yeah,
because when they leave the event, how do they coordinate that?
Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, you can't walk up the steps while I'm walking the other way because, kuch hota is gonna like play in my mind, right? And I'm like, dude, this don't make any sense. Like, what they were like, no, this is how we do it. And I was like, okay, so if that's the problem, what's the solution? They're like, we're gonna book another room which is smaller and doesn't look as nice, but it's got 2 entrances, one at the back and one at the front. And I was like, is that fine? Will you be happy then if we do that? And they were like, yeah, we'll be happy. And then
it's a different time.
And then one of the guys was like, listen guys, we're going through all this discussion, but I just want to say that, this is 11/11/11 and we've only got, and he's mentioned the date that it was like, this is something 10/11 and we've only got like 2 weeks to go. So we really need to push and promote. I'm like, no way, you don't say, bro. It's kind of like why we're here, right? And
he thought it was like, guys, we need to hurry up.
Yeah.
I'm telling you that.
Yeah. No, but at the end, once he like realized, and this is the thing, like people jump to conclusions based on the limited number of, they could have phoned me up and said, listen, bro, we have a very big problem with the ticketing situation. Explain it to us because we think you're making money. And I would have explained to him like, this is a score discussion. I'm not trying to make any money. This is how the numbers of it are going to work, and it would have been fine. But instead, they decided to
take a stance before
finding out the situation. Yeah. So at the end of it, everyone was fine. Ahmed was like, "Look, is everyone fine and happy with it?" And everybody in unison was like, "Yep." And while I was leaving, this brother ran up to me, and he pulled me aside. He goes, "Can I have a little word with you?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Beef.
Why? I didn't know what it was like.
No,
like,
but you were ready to scrap.
Straight to put him in the sharpshooter.
Yeah.
And he said, I want to personally apologize to you because I was the one who had been going around telling people about how this is a money-making thing, like media is a money-making thing, because I saw your event with the Stranger Store. You charged £10 there and you're charging £5 here. And I want to apologize for backbiting with wrong misinformation because I basically have been the one who's been, pushing this vendetta. And I personally want to apologize to you for doing that. And, hats off to him, man.
Yeah.
Like at the time I was like, well, bro, you were wrong. Like I'm doing the finances. He was like, yeah. He was very apologetic about it. He could have stayed quiet.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He could have just said, in himself, well, it's Rayhan's job to tell us the information. It ain't mine. Like I said what I said with thing, but he actually went out of his way to come back and apologize and say, look, I was one of the main guys who was walking around telling people, and anyone I've told, I'm gonna go back and give them the right information. And from me to you personally, I want to apologize. So at that point, we were much more better in line, and because we only had 2 weeks of their help in promoting it, we didn't have as many people as we probably should have.
Yeah.
We should have had a lot more people because when I invited Mufti Menk back and I said, look, come to the UK, and the plan here was just do one isolated event. But I knew if he's coming all the way from Zimbabwe, it doesn't make sense to do an isolated event because he'd started to become so popular that I knew people were going to reach out to me anyway. So I thought, well, I'll expand the scope of the event to a few other places. And he went to a few other universities where they had a much healthier attendance, but they'd been advertising for 4 or 5 weeks straight. And, hadn't had this whole thing of, it's a money-making thing and we're not going to promote it, we're not going to tell people about it, especially because it was done in conjunction with, you can't really do something in conjunction with somebody if they're not, going to be actively involved. So the event attendance was massive, but I wasn't too concerned because, again, they'd put the effort in again and we were recording everything. So I knew, okay, there's that. Some other things from the particular event, if you remember, or if you've seen, in 2011, like we've discussed before, people weren't really putting much value into videos, especially the quality.
Yeah.
Usually if there was an event and someone was videotaping it, like I was previously, you'd have a camcorder and you just record, right? I went out of my way to get a professional production company to come in. They had a 3-camera setup, record on high quality SLRs, and we've recorded at very high standard that even today it holds weight against a lot of stuff that's been produced by Muslim organizations and Muslim crowds. We spoke about this last week actually off camera, where me and you are still having Muslim organizations coming to us and asking us for help for video content, and they have no idea, or they have very limited experience in what it constitutes, recording an event, how many cameras we need to set up, what that means, and what the costs are, and logistically how we set it all up. They're like, we just need to.
It's just interesting how in the Islamic space, how strange of a value people put weight on different things in the community, like what should cost a lot of money, what shouldn't cost a lot of money. And they're so adamant on that. So if, for example, video services, that shouldn't cost any money, but I still want the best quality.
Yeah.
So then they don't put weight on that. The venue, it should cost a lot of money. Or like the speaker, they shouldn't cost that much money. It's just such a strange thing why they put weight.
I'll pay £5,000 for the venue.
Yeah.
But the guy that actually everyone's coming out to see the thing.
I will not pay over the grand. Like, it's just so strange to me that, like, the more I speak to, the more I'm like, okay, if you're really confused about pricing, it means that you don't have a set value, which means that the higher I push it, the more like you'll back off. So I don't try to push it as much anymore. So I'm like, okay, go for someone else, because I know this is not going to work out. And I feel like maybe different religious communities aren't that, you know, like precious when like they understand value of different things. Like Christian people have their own TV stations that are high quality, high broadcast, not like proper news broadcasting stations, but in churches and things like that, because they understand the value of media to some degree, and they understand the value. And look at their priests get paid disgusting amounts of money. I mean, I'm not saying we should do that,
especially in the US.
Yeah, especially in the US. I'm not saying we should do that, but I'm just saying, like, there needs to be a more practical understanding of where money needs to be put into, because even with the teaching and things like that, when they ask you like, oh, why are you making so much money off this, they need to just understand sometimes where things are going and why it's, you know, because they think everything in Islam should be free and everything outside of Islam should cost money.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, you know, when I was breaking down and I was like, look, we're getting professional video guys to come in. So if you watch that, again, it was ahead of its time, because I don't think there's very many, if you go back to 2011 stuff, there's not very many Islamic lectures that are recorded with 3 camera setups and SLRs and the whole setup. We had a full room in that. And I remember, you know, the video camera guy himself, he's very good friends with another friend of mine. And the friend of mine reached out to me a couple of days after, and he was like, oh, did you book these guys for like an Islamic event? I'm like, yeah, why? He goes, you know, because they're not really, the video guys are not really into like this Islamic stuff. But the main video guy was like, I was really impressed with the main speaker, who was Mufti Menk. And my mate was like, you know, he's not really into any of this stuff at all. But he went out of his way to tell me, oh, you know, I was doing that thing for Rehan, and I was really impressed with the main speaker. And it just shows you, man, like how, you know, you do something, and that wasn't the intention. The intention wasn't to bring the video guys and get them inspired by the thing. It meant that, and you know, even at the end, and again, this is one of the things with Mufti Menk, like he values that creativity and the experience that those guys have. And before we left, we were like trying to rush out the venue. He stopped quickly and he turned around to the video guys and said, look, thank you for coming, and you know, you guys did a great job, and you know, I saw you guys working around, and you know, really gave them props, like went out of his way to say thank you to them, which, you know, a lot of other people would be like, they're the hired help, bro, like why do I need to go out my way, you know, I'm busy and stuff. So I remember that. I remember Mufti Menk himself, like the next day, he phoned me and said he was really impressed with Ali Hammuda. He was like, I can't believe this kid's only 21.
Oh yeah, he was 21.
He was 21, right?
He's so young, subhanAllah.
So he was like, I can't believe he's 21 and he's already at that standard. He's going to be real big for the future. I was like, yeah, that's why I brought him on and I even said it, you know, because in between each of the guys coming up on stage, I introduced them and I said, look, when Ali finished, I was like, you know, this guy's going to be a speaker for the future. You guys need to keep an eye on him. And he did the khutbah at Aston University that same day, and people still talk to me about that khutbah, man. They're like, oh, that khutbah is really good. Really inspired us. So if anyone goes on the Like Media YouTube channel, you find Ali Hammuda's khutbah, you'll see what a lot of people were really impressed with. So I remember that. I remember Hassan, I was trying to get him off stage. So I think he ran a little bit over time, and I was trying to get him off stage like hard, man. And you see in the video, if you watch the video, he's like, Rehan's telling me to get off stage. Because I was like, you know, you segment things by time. You try to keep to time as much as possible. I remember a friend of mine was a big fan of Mufti Menk, and he was from St. Albans, which is like right down south, like 2 and a bit hours from where we are. And he goes, look, bro, if I come to your event in Birmingham, can you connect me with Mufti Menk? And I was like, yeah, bro, you know, you're going to come all the way up from there. I'm going to hook you up, man. You can speak to him. And
you're like, he's my friend. I can make it happen.
Yes, yeah, big fish, man, pulling strings. And he came from St. Albans. And at the end of the event, because obviously loads of stuff's happening, you're running around and everywhere. I grabbed him and I was like, come here. put in front of Mufti Menk, and I was like, yeah, Mufti Menk, this guy's a big fan of yours. He wants to talk to you. And I ran around for a little bit, came back 5 minutes later, and my mate's still telling him, like, I drove all this way just to meet you. And when you get to see someone meeting their fan, meeting their like role model, their idol, the person that they look up to most, it's like, you see it in Hollywood, and you see it with like actors, but when you see someone who reveres a religious authority like that much, you just sit back and you're like, that's pretty cool, man, that you like someone that much because of their faith. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you have that same boyish, childish look on your face as if you were meeting The Rock. Do you know what I mean? Like that same thing of or if someone who's really into football like meets Cristiano Ronaldo, and you got that same glint in your eye, and you got
shaking,
the same.
They sweat, they slur their speech.
Just like that whole I'm your biggest fan, and I watch all your stuff, and I follow everything, and you're just looking, and I'm like
that glow in their eyes.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. I mean, the event itself went through perfectly fine. Everyone was really good. You telling me the story about like how you and Ali got like lost on the way.
No, Mufti Menk, that's my claim to fame. He was lost. It was my first year of uni. I wasn't familiar with all the rooms yet, but I had some connection with the ISOC at that point, and I was rocking up to the event, and Mufti Menk was there. I was like, oh, you look like someone important. And I was like, where do you need to go? And he was like, oh, I need to go to Bing something hall. I forgot what it was called. And I was like, oh, I should know that. That's what I said. I was like, okay. I looked at the signs. I was like, and quickly he found out, oh, he doesn't know where he's going either. I was like, no, let's figure it out together. And then we just was wandering around a little bit, and then we found it. Yeah, we found it. And then I walked into the event. I think I left him with you guys. And yeah, after the event was finished, he still remembered, hey, you're the guy. Yeah. We'll still talk to this day.
Is it?
No.
Hilarious.
Imagine that's my in. Like I just guided someone to a room.
When you were lost, I was there.
Yeah. But I remember, I don't know if I think I paid for the event or I got in through my ISOC. I'm not sure. But yeah, that was one of my first events, Islamic events at uni. I used to go to events at Green Lane, Ar-Rahma, all the mosque type of events. I wasn't even in the uni scene that heavy. Okay. But that was the first time seeing Muslim Menk and also Ali Hammuda. I was like, okay, this is a good start.
Yeah, you enjoyed it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Okay, well, I'll tell you another story. Speaking about Mufti Menk. So, Adil, my very good friend.
Yeah, the sociable guy.
That's his name now. Adil, if you listen to this, you're Mr. Sociable. And
is that like a nice way of saying he talks too much?
No. Genuinely, if you meet him, he's a sociable guy. Like, trust me, if you ever need someone to break the ice in a place, you get Adil, man. He's a good dude. He's a good dude like that. So I spoke to Adil and I was like, listen, because like I said, Adil's got a very nice house, and Sheikh Abdullah had stayed with him, and a lot of people I toured with who didn't have family. Right, I would reach out to Adil and say, listen, can he stay with you for a couple of days? And I spoke to him. I said, look, Mufti Menk is coming. Can he stay with you? And he was like, yeah, cool. So on the day, Adil was working. And on the Friday, and everyone went there. Ali went there. Ali Hammuda went there. Ali's friend drove there. I went there. Mufti Menk went there because Mufti Menk arrived on the Friday. So it was a case of, right, get to Adil's house, knock out, go to sleep. And then afterwards, when Adil finishes work, he'll pick you up from home and he'll bring you to the event. And the plan was that Mufti Menk was going to stay. He was going to stay on Friday night at Adil's house, and Saturday morning, me and him would drive up to Manchester because Mufti Menk had an event in Manchester on the Saturday, and his sister lives in Blackburn. So he said, that was the plan. We're going to go the next day. And when he woke up, he said to Adil, you know what? Let me just pack everything and I'll put it in your car. And when we get to the event, I'll ask Rayhan to just drop me off tonight. We'll ask Rayhan if he can find somebody to drop me off tonight. Rather than go tomorrow, I'll just go tonight, chill with my family for a bit, and I'll make my own way to the event in Manchester. So we got to the event, and Mufti Menk told me, like, I'm just going to go tonight. I've got all the stuff in Adil's car. And at the event, he goes, look, did you find anyone to drive me? And I'm like, no, I'll drive you myself. I can't find anyone here. Because it's university, like not many kids have got cars, right? So I said, I couldn't find anyone.
Yeah.
He goes, no, it's fine. A brother has come from Blackburn to come to this lecture.
Yeah.
And he just came, introduced himself to me and said he's from Blackburn and he's going back to Blackburn. He said he's happy to take me. I'll just jump in with him. I'm like, are you sure? Because I'll take you. He's like, no, why are you going to waste your petrol for? Like, he's already here. I'm just going to go to Adil's car, get my stuff, put it in this guy's car. And I was like to the brother, you sure? It's fine. He goes, yeah, I got plenty of space. He brought his kids with him. He said, look, we got space in the car. More than happy to take Mufti Menk back. I mean, they came all the way from Blackburn to see him. Of course, they're going to want to, give him space in the car to take him up with them. I'm like, okay, cool. They got the stuff out of Adil's car. Adil goes home, phones me up and he goes, bro, my house has just been burgled. Adil, yeah. Someone had broken into his house while he was at the event. And I went around to his house and, someone had smashed the back window, got into the house, went around, rummaged everything and stole a few bits and pieces of his. So I went around. This was probably about 10, 11 in the evening.
Yeah.
And this is why Hassan Rasool stayed at mine house, because Hassan was meant to stay over at Adil's as well. So Mufti Menk and Hassan was meant to stay there. And we're all going to have like an evening chill out session and stuff. So Adil was like, listen, bro, I'm really sorry. I can't host Hassan now. And I was like, no, your house has just been burgled. It's fine. Like, I understand. So Hassan would just stay at my house. I only lived a couple of rows away from Adil anyway. So I phoned Mufti Menk and I said, he goes, oh, yeah, how's things? We're just on the way to Blackburn. I go, just to let you know, Adil's house has been burgled right now. And he was like, subhanallah, man, like, I was going to leave everything at Adil's house, my passport, all my traveling stuff. I was going to leave it. And just by sheer coincidence, while we're leaving the house, because they were leaving to come to the event, he goes to Adil, let me just pack everything and put it into your car and see if I can get a lift tonight. And he goes, if I did, and this was the conversation that me and him had on the phone. He said, if I didn't make that call, they'd have probably taken my passport and they would have at least taken some stuff out of my suitcase and whatnot. And he goes, man, look how God works, man. Like, for whatever reason, it put it into his head that, why don't you just pack your stuff and put it in the car and see if someone will take you?
But you can't bring that, notes up to Adil, because he's still devastated.
I didn't tell him straight away.
Whilst Mufti Menk is like, yo, alhamdulillah, I didn't put
I didn't tell Adil straight away. I told him like after a couple of days, but I said to Mufti Menk, I said, look, can you call him tomorrow? Yeah. Because obviously it's not nice, your house has been burgled.
100% it's not
And
nice.
I said, look, he'll appreciate it if you reach out to him. Maybe not right now because he's got cops around and all that kind of stuff. I said, reach out to him tomorrow. And then, he phoned him the next day and just checked in on him. And Adil and Mufti Menk became quite close friends. And every time when Mufti Menk would come to Birmingham a couple of times, he'd stay with Adil. So that was another thing that I remember from that event. That Mufti
That's
Menk's,
funny because I had the same scenario happen to me. My friend, we were supposed to take some photos. So I brought all my camera equipment with me.
At that event?
No, it wasn't at that event, but I just remember like there was a moment where I was relieved and the other person was like devastated. We both left our cameras in the back of the car, but they were supposed to go back to the office. And I was, by sheer coincidence, like, let me just bring my bag with me. And in literally the few minutes we was at the office space, he went back into his car and he was like, yo, my seat is off. Like, why is it so far back? And I was like, it's nothing, let's just go. And he's like, no, something's off. And then he just goes to the back seat the trunk, because his bag with his laptop was there, where I took my bag with my camera. It was gone. He was devastated. The whole night we were trying to find my MacBook or whatever. And we found like a place in Alum Rock, and I took my tripod as a weapon just to like...
Serious?
Yeah, just to like walk around, and if I see anyone that looks suspicious that... catches on to
This
us.
is like Liam Neeson part 2.
Yeah, but just imagine going to chip shops and we're asking them like, do you know this? Do you know that? And they just see me, just a brother with a mosque hat, but with like
with
a
tripod.
And branding. I'm not even holding the tripod like a cameraman anymore. I'm literally holding it by his legs as if like just to get more mobility. Exactly. And but in my mind, I was like, alhamdulillah, I didn't leave my camera back, because that was my life. In any way, that's how I made money. And if I just left it there, I would be devastated. But I couldn't feel that grateful when we were looking for the perp and, like looking to beat him off. But yeah, that was just a little tangent.
I mean, it shows you though how like God, just for whatever reason, he puts these ideas into your head, like right, do this, and there's no logic behind it.
But there's this compelling like urge to do it. And now no matter whose car I'm in, I never leave anything
Yeah.
important. I just always bring it with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if I'm going to the toilet and just back and forth.
There you go. So there was a few things from that event. Of course, I mean, people can go watch the video back.
Yeah.
I think we have like a little because we had a professional company come and do the video stuff.
It looks really nice.
Yeah, we got them to do like a little highlights video, which it's just a couple of minutes long. So if you want to go onto the Like Media page, YouTube channel, type in 111111, you'll find two videos. You'll find one which is a highlights clip, and then you have one which is the entire full event. And the full event is a lot long, hour and something odd minutes.
Yeah.
Where you can see Hassan's whole part and Ali's whole part and Mufti Menk's whole part. So what I always found cool about that afterwards was seeing, because it was recorded in such high quality.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people who were at that stage anyway, and they would like cut out little bits of the lecture and put it on their own YouTube channel.
Oh,
like if he cracked a joke, like if Mufti Menk cracked a joke, they were like, oh, I'm gonna make a YouTube clip that is labeled Mufti Menk funny, in brackets, right? And I would see those and I was like, oh, that's cool. And like I said, it was my first time working with Ali Hammuda.
Yeah.
And it was my last time actually. I actually did an official tour with Mufti Menk because shortly after that there was some problems and stuff that he's had since. But the first time, and I worked with Ali Hammuda, got some stuff done in with him. And like I said, Hassan's always a cool dude to have involved with anything. So I think the event, overall was a success. At the end of the day, we marked something that was once in a lifetime. The video is out there for people to browse and see and view and digest that information. It's out there in multiple different forms, in short form video where people have extracted certain parts and created their own little videos off the back of them. And that's essentially why we do these kind of events, the headaches of liaising with people. And we changed the mindset a little bit of the Aston University guys, where they started to understand, okay, maybe it's not that black and white thing of, okay, they're charging X amount of money for tickets, therefore they're making X, Y amount, and they're using us as a cash cow. It's like, no, we're doing things for everyone's benefit. I remember at the end, I was trying to get a picture taken at the end of the event because we had professional photographers there, right, as well, right? So I said to the photographer, look, before you go, can you just take a photo of the organizers, like me, the ISAC guys, and the three speakers? And I remember there was two guys who were just random attendees, saw us taking a picture and just jumped into the picture.
Of course, yeah.
They were just like, one of them was leading the other one, and the other one was like, I don't think we can get in this picture, bro. And he was like, no, come on, let's get in the picture. And you can they just jumped on the tables behind us and got into the thing. And none of us had the heart to say, lads, leave. Yeah. So these two random guys are just in this picture of the organizers and the speakers plus two random. I just remember that, and everyone was just like, because the ISAC guys were looking at me and saying, are you going to tell him to go? And I was looking at them like, so you're uni, you should tell him to go. And the speakers were like, can we just take this picture already? So, that was one of the times where I look back now and, having those pictures taken professionally, having the videos done quite well, it was ahead of its time, but it's needed, man. If we as a Muslim community are going to be creating so much, great content out there, let's present it in the very best way possible. We can't just say the content itself is great. The way that it's presented also needs to hold up.
So do you think just making one event and making it a good go of it, in terms of hiring production company, all that type of stuff, versus having a tour of different dates and different venues, which one do you think has more impact in terms of your experience? Which one has more outreach? Which one has more best content, or which one has more impact overall?
Generally the tour.
The tour, okay.
Because what happens is on a tour, 9 times out of 10, it depends. I mean, with a tour, a speaker will they slowly break into it.
Yeah.
So the first day they might be a little bit tired, a little bit going through the motions, and then they'll pick up pace as the tour goes on.
Okay.
When you have a one-off event, you gotta be on point from the beginning, right? So there's that. If someone has multiple different lectures, and if someone is, so we've had events like the Stranger Store, for example, where it's the same show for 3, 4, 5 days in a row.
Yeah.
When you have the same thing, you said it multiple times, because you're doing it more often and you're practicing more, it gets better and better and better as each show goes on. And also when you're doing, this is not so much of a big deal because of the use of video content.
Yeah.
But if you're going to more and more spaces and you're seeing more and more people, then you're going to be reaching more people and benefiting more people, and you get more rewards from that perspective.
Yeah.
The only time I would say a one-off one is probably slightly better is when you have something like this where it's date driven.
Yeah.
If you have something like a lot of times people have something on the 25th of December because they know it's a national holiday. So people are going to be around. They're not going to have any other things to do. So then that probably works out quite well. Or on the 1st of January, because again, it's a national holiday, or in, Easter time, anything that's a national holiday.
Yeah.
It's always good to do something there because you just know everyone's going to be free, right? So then it works. But also a one-off works if you have big, massive name speakers and you have a lot of them.
Yeah.
Because you can't book, let's say, for example, 7, 8, 9, 10 different speakers and say, okay, we're going to go on the road for 5 days. Because, especially big names who have commitments, they're big names for a reason because they're involved in a lot of different things, in their own communities back home.
Too many different schedules to work with.
Too many different schedules, and you just can't do it. So you can't organize a tour with 10 big speakers going over 5 days. But you can probably do it over 1 day. So then the impact of that is going to be vastly bigger than...
Yeah.
That's why, Isna and Ikna, these kind of places work quite well because they're booking people for a couple of days maximum, and then people can all congregate for those 2 days and then just go again, right? So it varies. I generally find the tours are better for the style of event that we do anyway, because you got one speaker and you take them around and stuff. But there are instances where a one-off one probably benefits more.
Okay. That's good to hear. I think that's it. I think we've wrapped up on that event. It was really interesting, mainly because of that issue you had with my eye sock. It got better, by the way, I think.
Yeah.
I think we fixed up. But it's, dealing with younger people can always be stressful because they have a lot of passion and vigor, but sometimes their brains fall behind their actions. So,
It's harsh.
It is harsh, but I was young once, and I still am, actually. For anyone who's listening, I'm still young. Yeah.
And this is a case, this event was a case of long-term planning as well. If you think about it, it really started at the beginning of October in 2010 when I saw that wrestling promotion. And, from then all the way through 2011, setting up Mufti Menk in the summer, getting Ali involved in the summer, despite it being a long-form organized thing, it almost went derailed because of 2 things that were not in my control. I couldn't control when Eid was going to be, so Mufti Menk might have been tied up elsewhere, and I couldn't control the views and perceptions of the NISOC team at the time until they vocalized it. Once they vocalized it, I was able to take care of it. But before then, because they internalized most of it and discussed it behind closed doors. So sometimes, it's good to be prepared and planned from beforehand, but just be wary that you might have to pivot and adapt and change a little bit based on things coming in the future that you just have no awareness of.
Okay. But yeah, that's all for this week. Don't forget to join us next week when we cover the Strangers Tour in 2011. And that was a repeat one. That came back bigger and better. It sold out everywhere. And we'll be covering it on this podcast next week. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Bye.
Keep the faith.